But to the good news today about the coronavirus, just 8 new infections across the whole country in the 24 hours to 6 o'clock this morning. 8. When will we wake up? The ACT has now announced it doesn't have a single sick person. South Australia hasn't had a new infection for a week, which again makes me ask, what on earth are the governments waiting for to relax these crippling restrictions? We're going broke. These restrictions are nuts. True, New South Wales and Western Australia this week announced some minor relaxation of the rules. But today the Northern Territory, hallelujah, went much further. It hasn't had a new infection for 24 days. And I might think, what was it waiting for? But it has now finally announced that, OK, outdoor activities like playgrounds and weddings and funerals, they can start again tomorrow with social distancing. And on May 15, what's that, 2 weeks from now, restaurants, cafes and pubs, they can open too, as well as gyms, indoor religious gatherings, libraries, museums, things like that. Other things must wait, and the borders will stay closed for now. They'll probably be the last to be gone, the restrictions there. Now, it's all too slow, but at least this is welcome. And Victoria remains the standout with its bizarrely tough bans, not reopening schools, banning even golf, banning visits to your children, which brings me back to those advisors it's listening to, like the Deputy Chief Health Officer. You've got its Chief Health Officer, he's a global warming extremist, who last month published a paper calling for tough action on that as well. And now this tweet from his deputy. Sudden arrival of innovator from another land, decimating populations, creating terror. COVID-19 or James Cook? Well, as I said, this health advisor is utterly wrong about James Cook and the virus, but so extreme is this Victorian Labor government that she works for that Health Minister Jenny Mikakos today jumped to her defence, saying the Deputy Chief Health Officer is doing an outstanding job protecting Victorians from this deadly pandemic. Criticism from angry MPs is irrelevant to the fight against this virus. Well, one of those angry MPs is the Victorian Liberals education spokesman, Tim Smith. Tim Smith, thanks for joining me. What is wrong, do you think, with the Deputy Chief Health Officer's tweet?
Well, thanks for having me on the program, Andrew. I thought that tweet was a disgrace. I thought it was divisive. I question why the Deputy Chief Health Officer is making such a tweet during office hours, during a pandemic. But most importantly, she's just wrong. Like, she's historically wrong. She's breached a number of public sector codes and guidelines with regards to making political commentary. And she signed off on the most onerous and punitive rules anywhere in Australia that prevent people from playing golf, going to school and the like. And yet she's held to a higher standard because she's deemed to be above politics. What's clear, she is a political activist. It's clear that she does have biases, and that might explain why Victoria has the most onerous and punitive rules anywhere in Australia of dealing with this coronavirus pandemic.
I have to say, when you've got the Chief Health Officer being a global warming extremist, saying, we've got to get really tough on global warming, and we got her saying this, and also, by the way, issuing another tweet calling Australians racist. I just think, that does maybe reflect on the hard line. I should imagine you wouldn't feel so bad. Oh, there it goes. We are a racist nation and must do better. You probably wouldn't feel that bad about keeping Victorians locked up if you thought they were all racist, would you?
Well, I just would wonder what the left would be saying tonight had Brendan Murphy tweeted something that was deemed to be inappropriate towards Aboriginals, or something about same-sex marriage. I mean, the hue and cry would be heard all over the land. There would be clamourings for his dismissal. They would all be going, frankly, off their heads. Well, I thought...
But I got that. But, at least you're now returning fire. But here's the thing. Why is Victoria, the government, the restrictions, everything so draconian. How do you explain this? What is in the water in Victoria? It's a laughingstock compared to the rest of the country.
Well, let's take this schools issue for an example. The Chief Medical Officer of Australia, Brendan Murphy, says it's perfectly safe to go to school. Yet in Victoria, the Deputy Chief Health Officer, the Chief Health Officer say it's not. I think they are... I think that they've panicked. I think they're control freaks. And I don't think, to be frank, they're considering the economic implications of their decision-making in the slightest. And I think Victoria is going to be the last to come out of these very onerous restrictions. And as a consequence, we will be left behind by other states as the rebuild begins. And that's going to be devastating for Victorian jobs, Victorian businesses, and indeed our economy here in Victoria that is so dependent on population growth in particular, which is clearly going to be restricted over the next couple of years.
I think you're absolutely right. The children have got to go back now. It is safe and critical to... I just don't see what is the danger? There is no real danger left, and enough. Tim Smith, thank you so much indeed for your time.